Hey everybody, I'm Tonoccus McClain, and this is Political Hijinks. Chances are, if you're flipping through YouTube videos right now, then you never lived through a wartime effort. I'm not talking about Iraq or Afghanistan. I'm talking about the entire country coming together with one single focus, like World War II. Now, back then, America was coming out of the Great Depression, and that wasn't the best look when you had to fly over to Europe and fight some Nazis. So they had to get together, and they had to come together in ways that this generation would never understand. Or so I thought before this coronavirus nonsense descended upon all of us. All of a sudden, people who had never said one word to their elderly neighbor upstairs are preparing meals for her, taking them to her, having conversations with her, all because all of a sudden the environment wasn't that safe for her. Or people having the ingenious idea to design 3D printable face masks that are sterilized, that are reusable for our nurses and our doctors on the front line saving lives. To be perfectly honest, all of these acts of goodwill are warming my heart and renewing my faith in humanity, which had taken a few dings as of late. Which brings us to Trump.
The rate of new infections is doubling about every 3 days.
Governor Cuomo has his hands full.
The apex is higher than we thought, and the apex is sooner than we thought.
In order to meet the predicted onslaught of COVID-19 patients headed his way. And by his calculations, the apex of that wave will arrive between April 7th and April 14th.
The greatest critical need are ventilators. The ventilator will make the difference between life and death. We've procured about 7,000 ventilators. We need an additional 30,000 ventilators. The only way we can obtain these ventilators is from the federal government, period. And not to exercise that power is inexplicable to me.
At this point, there's only one way to get the necessary ventilators made.
New York is a bigger deal, but it's going to go also. But I have a feeling that a lot of the numbers that are being said in some areas are just bigger than they're going to be. I don't believe you need 40,000 or 30,000 ventilators.
President Trump has to use his Federal Defense Production Act to commandeer or contract an American company in the private sector and order it to stop making its usual product and instead make ventilators. Otherwise, the ventilators will not get to New York in time to stop the apex of the wave of mortally infected Americans. Warning, this next section is going to get a little rough, but it's just to prove a point. This is what's going to happen if Trump doesn't build those machines. Do you remember the September 11th attacks, which also hit New York City? Remember that hollowed out feeling in your gut when you learned that 3,000 of our fellow Americans had just been at the wrong place at the wrong time. 3,000 Americans who were just like you and me, who very easily could have been you and me, lost their lives in a heartless act of terror. 3,000 lights forever extinguished, needlessly. By standing idly by, President Trump let 26,000 Americans lose their lives. Now, we started 2 wars over what happened at 9/11. This is almost 9 times that number. President Trump could make an order today, and those human beings would have access to the medical equipment they need to save their lives. By standing idly by, President Trump becomes a terrorist attack all his own. Maybe you're thinking that because it's going on in New York and you live in Los Angeles, it has nothing to do with you. But this apex phenomenon potentially can happen to every city and every town in America. So it might not be you this time, desperately needing that ventilator, but it very well could be you next time. The 25th Amendment is invoked when the president is deemed unfit for office and the vice president takes over for him. I can't think of a better example of a president unfit for office than if Donald Trump allows 26,000 of our fellow American citizens to die when it was perfectly within his power to stop it. Can you? Wow, that got really dark. Thank you guys for joining me on that wild ride. This is actually my first episode, my first venture into this new and wild, exciting land. I would love to know what you think about it. Leave me a comment down in the comment section. If you liked it, why don't you give me a little like? Perhaps you would consider subscribing if you think that there's potential for my little venture here. Here there's a little bell. If you want to know when the next one is going to hit, just hit that bell and you will be in the know. Thanks guys, we are in this together.